Yes, it's that time again. It's Indaba, and we greet you, all the viewers and listeners on YouTube and Facebook. Welcome to another edition of Indaba, the program of the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, the ESC is a civil society organization that primarily organizes the Pan African Festival of Trinidad and Tobago, and it's also the headquarters or secretariat of the Caribbean Pan African Network. Uh, Unfortunately, we are not on Talk City this evening, but of course, we do appreciate our fans there, our historical fans there. I think we need to begin by apologizing for last week's, the abortion of last week's program, which was due to a technical glitch that could not be rectified before the start of the program. So, as usual, we invite you to participate in the program by posting your chats and possibly sending us a voicemail on WhatsApp. You would see the number at the bottom of your screen. This week's program is the same as advertised for last week. And of course, we begin as usual with the Africa report. Immediately after that, we are having, I think I got it a little bit mixed up, but we are having a report from the program director of the African Heritage Agricultural Center, which I describe as a reparatory project of the Emancipation Support Committee. And in keeping with the spirit of Carnival, our feature segment is on the politics of Carnival 2026. I'm your co-host, Claudius Fergus, my co-host and brother, Shabaka Kambon.
Yes,
Welcome.
greetings, Doctor. Doctor, let me say that it is my understanding that the lineup has changed slightly. So we do start tonight, for the benefit of our listeners, with the Africa report. And then we will proceed to a discussion. We have two special guests waiting backstage to discuss Africa in Carnival. Two people who are practitioners of important African art forms that are part of the Carnival, who will be here to discuss that topic with us. Then we go to the politics of Carnival with brother Omari Asby. He's confirmed he's going to join us at 8:30, followed by a very special performance by Sheldon Blackman, who's going to share with us one of his new, to launch one of his new songs here on Indaba, and talk to us about what he is about to do during the Carnival season. Something special coming up. So that's the show for tonight, brother.
Well, that's great because I think I saw a publication, Africa in the Carnival by the Emancipation Support Committee. I hope we are also going to talk about that. I looked at the draft and it is worthy of reading. I think it's worthy of being placed in our school system as well. I hope we talk about that as well.
Well, I haven't seen it, Doc, so I look forward to hearing for you to give me some bit of a summary of it when we get to that point in the show.
Okay, I hope I can pull it up. Yes. So without further ado, let's go to the Africa report. It's about the geopolitics in West Africa, and believe me, new developments are taking place at a rapid pace. So I have to address what I call a sequel. I'll have to do a follow up of these developments. For example, not mentioned clearly because some things as they emerge that I address, sometimes you have to verify to get the backstory to some of these. But I can tell you that the US, for example, placed troops on the ground in Nigeria. The British are coming in as well. you know. So it seems as if the AES is the target. In my view, the AES sovereignty miracle is generating fear among these capitalist imperialists. And in my own words, I believe it's like if you know about mafia type stuff, they want to kneecap. That's the term I want to use. They want to kneecap the revolution. And this is how they are going about it. So we are going to take in has become part one, actually, of the geopolitics in West Africa. So Renee, I'll bring up the report, please. Thank you.
Weapons, Egypt, military coup, billions in US aid, Equatorial Guinea, dictatorship for decades, no democracy emergency, no sanctions. But when a country resists economic control, suddenly democracy matters. That's not values, that's leverage.
That was Dr. 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴 of Ghana. In this edition of the Africa Report, we address the intriguing crossroads of geopolitics in West Africa, the dynamics of which are rapidly becoming increasingly complex. In the context of this report, geopolitics refers to the impact of geographical factors on intracontinental and extracontinental relations. The geographical factors include geographical location, natural resources, climate, and several elements of human geography, such as settlement patterns, ideology of governance, ethnicity, and religion. In West Africa, as in other African regions, there is intense competition by domestic and foreign interests for natural resources such as gold, uranium, diamond, bauxite, and tantalite, on which advanced industrial economies depend. Ironically, but understandably, West African leaders have two existential choices. Either remain the proxies and stooges of former colonizers, including the United States, or embrace a new class of imperialists led by Russia and China. Other major contenders for resources and influence in West Africa include Israel, Turkey, a former imperial power in North Africa, Iran, and India. India, a rapidly rising high-tech industrial economy, increasingly relies on supplies of West African gold, diamonds, and crude oil for its energy needs. Industrialized countries insist on relegating Africans to exporters of raw materials. But African nations are waking up from their externally imposed slumber to claim ownership of, add value to, and militarily defend their natural resources. A case in point, as the US was threatening Venezuela with invasion last year and launched missiles within Nigeria, AES intelligence revealed that they were also in the crosshairs of the US jingoists. Accordingly, they prepared their people and their military for what they described as a black winter. And indeed, the attacks came, first against the Burkinabe government, and just a few days ago, a destructive attack on Niger's main airport. A welcome development is the Confederation of Sahelian States demonstration that when a chartered bloc of nations acts in unwavering concert or unity of purpose, parasitic imperialists go on red alert, do a policy U-turn, and call for negotiation. The first pushback by AES was the rejection of U.S. deportees on their soil, for which the U.S. imposed visa bans. Immediately, one after another, each unit of the AES reciprocated with total and indefinite visa bans on United States passport holders. The latest demonstration of true political and narrative sovereignty involved the successful deployment of local intelligence to preempt the assassination of Burkinabe government officials, leading to the capture of the assailants and the extradition of former President Damiba to stand a trial. A few days ago, Niger scored another major military success for the AES when their military repelled an attack by ISIS-affiliated fighters on their main airport. Several assailants were captured. The AES forces did not depend on U.S. weaponry, emphasizing the uselessness of U.S. arms sanctions against the AES. West African governments, widely believed to be proxies of France, were also implicated in these attacks. Addressing the ramifications of these security threats on state radio, Nigerian President Abdourahamane Tiani did not pull punches, saying, quote, "We remind the sponsors of these mercenaries, notably Emmanuel Macron, President Talon of Benin, and Alassane Ouattara of Ivory Coast. We have heard them bark quite enough. Now they should get ready to listen to us." End quote. Indeed, among the ISIS attackers on the airport was at least one French mercenary. But it was the United States that seemed most ready to listen. Not wanting to become a complete nullity in Sahelian geopolitics, the U.S. State Department announced last Monday that its head of the Bureau of African Affairs, Nick Checker, would visit Mali's President Assimi Goïta, quote, to convey the United States' respect for Mali's sovereignty and to chart a new course in relations, moving past policy missteps, end quote. Recognizing that they were dealing with a confederation with a shared foreign policy, the Department of State added that the United States, quote, also looks forward to cooperating with Mali and Burkina Faso on shared security and economic interests, end quote. My take is that it's only a misstep when their aggression fails, and sharing intelligence with the United States would be tantamount to restoring the imperialist noose around the necks of the governments of the Confederation. Let's hear the opening clip again.
Saudi Arabia, no elections, billions in US weapons, no democracy emergency, no sanctions. But when a country resists economic control, suddenly democracy matters.
Conspicuously absent from the instruction to Nick Checker was America's hypocritical concern for democracy and human rights. Indeed, last year, a MAGA fanatic and senior advisor in the United States Department of State's Africa's unit, Massad Boulos, told the French newspaper Le Monde, quote, democracy is always appreciated, but our policy is not to interfere in the internal affairs of other countries. People are free to choose whatever system is appropriate for them, end quote. What a blatant lie that we know too well in the Caribbean. The AES should be aware when the wolf comes in sheep's clothing. Dependence on a single supplier for military equipment is a form of colonialism. Recognizing this pitfall, the AES has diversified its strategic partners and ipso facto its sources of weaponry. From Russia, they procure fighter jets, helicopters, and anti-aircraft systems and munitions. From China, field guns, and from Turkey, drones. Iran also has geopolitical stakes in the Sahel, providing drones to secure uranium, especially from Niger, as well as to counter US sanctions. The AES is no military pushover. It now ranks among the top 5 military nations in West Africa, with Mali at number 1. Satellite communication is indispensable to modern warfare and is a major factor in geopolitics. We saw this dynamic in the recent US invasion of Venezuela. Accordingly, the AES is moving ahead with a satellite project to control its own signals, security, data, and connectivity outside of Western influence, although reliant on Russian expertise. Turkey has been accused of supplying arms to the jihadists of the Sahel and in promoting the expansion of Islam in West Africa. Yet, following U.S. bombings and threat of more bombings in Nigeria by the United States, President Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria went to Turkey to negotiate an arms deal, mainly to neutralize dependence on U.S. arms suppliers, and certainly to turn off U.S. pressure on his government. Geopolitics is truly a game of thrones. Listen to two opposing perspectives from two foreign speakers at the recent AU-EU summit in Angola. The first glorifies European supremacy, while the second exposes the lie.
The stronger you are as suppliers, the more Europe will diversify supply chains towards Africa, and the more we both will de-risk our economies. It's a clear win-win.
What we call our strategic relationship isn't about human flourishing. It's about the EU's ambitions as a superpower. We talk about instability, but we only make it worse. We flood the place with weapons, hand over the profits to European arms companies, and charge the bill to our citizens. And all I can say is, God save Africa from Europeans offering help.
It's obvious to most analysts and observers that Africa is enduring a new scramble. Except this time, Africans are active participants, not like the Berlin situation, where they were seen merely as sitting ducks. The survival and success of the revolution in the AES cannot be achieved based on military alliances alone. As a landlocked region, its economic survival depends on reliable relations with the maritime states. Benin Republic is critical to Niger's petroleum exports. Similarly, the Burkinabe government secured a multipurpose terminal at the port of Tema in Ghana, which will help secure the country's energy security by increasing storage facilities. Guinea-Conakry has become a lifeblood for Mali. Parallel with the Sahelian military-led revolution, General Mamadi Doumbouya overthrew President Alpha Condé in 2021. Last week, Doumbouya was installed as elected civilian president. While attending his inauguration, President Goïta struck a deal to acquire seaport facilities in Conakry. To reciprocate, Mali ceded a small portion of borderlands to Guinea for warehousing facilities. One of the newest players in West African geopolitics is Israel. Netanyahu has explicitly stated an interest in Nigeria, but time does not allow for an exploration of his intrigues in West Africa. Until we meet again for another edition of the Africa Report on Indaba.
Yes,
So as I said, this was prepared for last week. So everything you hear about last week and a few days ago, just add another week to it in order to be accurate with the time. Yes, Shabaka, a brief comment from you as usual.
Yeah, I think the issue that you raised at the beginning of the show is suggests the potential complicity of certain African leaders in the challenges that the Sahel region will face right now, or are in the midst of facing. And perhaps you would want to send, we as Caribbean people perhaps would want to send a message to the continent at a time like this. What might that sound like?
A message, of course, the Caribbean has been in solidarity with the revolution, particularly, coming very, very strong when the U.S. Command, Africa Command General Commander General Michael, I think is his name, brutally threatened. And Traore, we demonstrated that it was a global response, but the Caribbean, of course, would have demonstrated that it is very much in tune with the revolution. And I think, particularly in light of what happened next door, I think in Venezuela, I think the AES is even more relevant. It's the only hope that we have that Africa can really have a rebirth out of the colonial situation. There have been experiments before, they collapsed as we know, and we can only hope that this one doesn't collapse. Because in my opinion, if this does, I don't know when we are going to get back to this position again. You see? And the fear by the imperialists is that this thing is going to spread, and it will, because a lot of people are looking at the model, right? And looking at the economic development, the social development. And just let me end with this, the nationalization that is taking place is also scaring a lot of them, like it scared them in Venezuela. But these countries are benefiting from it. This is a huge gold producing area in Africa, one of the original gold producing areas that supply the imperialist Mediterranean zones, out of Mali. Most of that gold was coming out of Mali across the Sahara. We know of Mansa Musa, the famous Mansa Musa, and the amount of gold that he went to Hajj with. But gold is now skyrocketing, I understand, at over 5,000 US. And when the revolution started, it was less than half of that. So you could imagine, and they are driving all of this revenue into development. They're putting the thing into development. So it's not only a political revolution, it's a total revolution going on. And this is scaring these guys. It's really scaring them a lot,
So I think we have to use that message, Doc, to discourage African leaders that run countries, that border these countries, from cooperating with imperialist objectives in those for the Southern Africa.
It's not that simple. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. I'll address that aspect of it in the sequel after Carnival.
Looking forward to it, Doc. Looking forward to it. Now let's welcome our guests. We have here from the Majestic Mokos Performing Company. We have a special guest. That's Natasha Simon, and of course a young lady who plays one of the historic carnival figures, carnival characters, Anisha Bernard. Welcome to Indaba. And of course,
welcome. Good night. Thank you.
We have some young people in the background there as well. I didn't say hi to them.
Hello.
All right, greetings, guys. Okay, so guys, we're going to talk tonight about Africa in the carnival, and of course, this discussion is always set against the backdrop of the way that we are taught about carnival up to today in our primary and secondary schools. That it is indeed sort of a French European legacy. Something that we are diminished to those who mimic the French, and we continue according to the historical record to mimic up to today. So perhaps
let me just inject a little bit before you continue. Let me ask our producer in the background, Sister Zach, to post something, please, on our post so that we can read it to our audiences on your publication with the title Africa in the Carnival Part 1. It speaks to almost every aspect of Africa in the Carnival. So could you post it? Tell us if it's available, where it's available, and when it would be available if it is not yet available. So could you post that in the chat and we'll try to communicate that. Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Shabaka.
Yeah, so basically I'm asking folks if it is indeed that according to our teachers and our history books that Carnival is French and there's no Africa, what are we really talking about tonight?
That is furthest from the truth.
while Carnival may wear French lace and have European dates and all of that now, the roots and the rhythm and the soul of Carnival is definitely Africa.
Exactly.
Question. Without question.
So tell us. So, Ms. Bernard, since you're already on the hot seat, you've decided to take up the challenge of responding to my questions. Perhaps you'd like to tell me about what you do within the Carnival session and how do you see it in connection to Africa?
Okay, so I'm a cultural practitioner. I would not be too specific in terms of just one aspect because I'm a performer all around. I do traditional masquerade as well, characters such as the 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴 and the baby doll, and I have recently created my own version of the baby doll, which is a fire-breathing baby doll, right? The 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴 in and of itself is a character. Well, all if not most of our traditional carnival characters were created out of the need for revolution, the need for change of some sort, the need for our story to be put out there, and also as a way to pay homage to those that fought for what we now have. The 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴 character in and of itself, while it does play on you're one black, or you're calling me devil, take devil, you're calling me black, take black. It tells the story of those that was working on the sugarcane plantations.
I hear different stories about this. So one of the stories that I hear is that the 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴 is the representation of the planter, the devil himself, the molasses devil. And so he comes back every carnival to scare people as he did in the old days and to remind people of the evil of the plantation. But I've heard other interpretations as well.
So there are lots of, when it comes to Ijab Molasi, there are lots of original stories. And because most of our traditions are oral traditions, you will get different stories as it comes down through generations, right? There is the story about the slaves themselves that would have worked on the plantation who may have fell into the vat of molasses or would have been burnt, which is why the screams happen, which is why the screams always sound so tortured. There is the story of it being, well, I know for a fact in Grenada, their version of the Jab Molasses, which is the Jab Jab, it's a post-emancipation mass celebrating freedom, which is why they would have the movement chains and stuff like that. In Trinidad, however, most of us who perform, we perform it as a way to remember those that would have worked on the plantation.
Yeah. So in any, no matter how we spin it, then that really speaks to that period of enslavement and colonization. That's a great place to start.
The blackness, the emphasis of the blackness, because you're calling me devil because I'm black. So the chants would also reflect that, you know. And I also believe God, as I said, which is
right. So you're grounding already a number of the traditional characters in our own historical experience. And of course, I know Dr. Fergus, being a historian, would also point to the fact that some of these characters have their genesis on the continent of Africa itself. And that's a great place for me to move across now to my sister Natasha, because we know that the 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴 come from the continent of Africa. 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴, where some of the other figures their relationship might be obscured in different ways. The 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴 is a clear, cultural retention.
Yes, correct. So my love for the 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴 came from training from Junior Bisnath. He was my first and my only teacher. And actually I wanted my one son at the time to be involved in every single aspect of Trinidad culture, not only our African heritage, but all different ethnic backgrounds. So I would always take my son to 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴 practice and Pagwa and to the Diwali Nagar, and I wanted him all rounded in Trinidad's culture.
Which one of these kids is your son here behind you?
Pardon me, this is my second son. This is Xavier, who is now the Trinidad baby with all cultures. So my first son didn't take it, but this second one is in every aspect of our Trinidad culture. So just to push in a little story, I was coming from work, driving in our street one evening, seeing him without permission wearing my 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴 stilts.
Wow.
And the only way I could have taken it off of him was when he fell asleep at night. I could not have removed it from his legs. He would cry. So now he is our 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴 baby.
And who is the other young man with us?
And then we have Joshua. This is Joshua, my post-school student. He just finished Form 5 at Marabella South Secondary School. And yes, he finished last year. And he also has shown a great interest, a love for our Trinidad African art forms.
Yeah. Let me just acknowledge the tremendous hairstyle of the young man, your son there in this image. He really represents the kind of liberation of African hair that we are involved in at this time in our country, something that's still contested. Part of as Carnival is, and the Carnival narrative, the Carnival figures are all contested. So is African hair, not just the culture, but the hair as well. And your son is a great ambassador for the way we could be if we are truly liberated in terms of our hair. So, son, more power to you. So let's talk. Let's go back into this. So you started with Junior Business, and we've had him on Indaba, and we have him at Emancipation every year. We celebrate his work. Fantastic brother. He actually taught my own son to walk in the Moko Jumpy stilts as well. So tell me where you're taking this now in Majestic Mokos.
All right. So I actually want more of our youths and elders to appreciate that word appreciation. So they actually feel that, yeah, let's just do a thing. It's just do a thing. This our heritage, our culture is not just do a thing. This is we. Just like the theme for our 2026 Carnival, this is we. This is not just walking stilts or putting on a baby doll dress or blowing fire. This is our history. This is our identity. The greatest show on earth, as we say. This our Trinidad and Tobago's Carnival, all our traditional Carnival characters came from that freedom cry.
And Dr. Fergus, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, sister, go ahead, Natasha.
It's that lack of respect that I want to try and continue to nourish and appreciation for our African art forms. I don't only want the Moko Jumpy, the stilt walking, to remain as is. I want it in all aspects of theater. So, for example, the Moko Jumpy is in every single event, every corner of the globe, in funerals and weddings and birthday parties and all different forms of different kinds of events, building and company openings. The majesticness of the Moko Jumpy makes its presence, that height, that stature, that grandeur. Yeah, and it's a magnificent sight to see.
Yeah, I think also what is magnificent for me is the way that that African culture in our hands. And when I say our hands, I mean I'm talking the post-slavery Africans, those who were transported to the Americas. It continues to evolve. We are not holding on to a static idea of the past, but something that is ours. And because it is ours, we have the right to innovate and to evolve, which is why I liked Andy Shire's notion that she created. She started working on, was it a new baby doll?
So a fire-breathing baby doll.
A fire-breathing baby doll. Yes, that's your right. You have a right to do that.
I would have done that within the 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴 space. I was a part of the cast of 𝐀𝐬𝐿𝐴, and I was given the duty of being the baby doll for the production.
So tell us quickly the difference between the traditional character and the one that you are now in the process of, or you have already innovated.
Okay, so initially the baby doll, she's a griot through and through, by using the art form of storytelling, which would have stemmed from the West African griot storytelling tradition, right? And her dress is the frilly bonnet with the pretty frill dress, stockings, frill socks, which is things that they would have worn that the Sunday best, sorry. For children, as a matter of fact. The difference is with mine, I infused, initially it was an infusion of the Jab Molasi character and the baby doll. But as I started to work on it a bit more and get a bit deeper into the synopsis itself of the character and her purpose, I realized that the movement of the Jab Molasi is not necessary. However, the fire in and of itself, because the fire, which is often mistaken for violence, for me, it's not just violent. Fire can be used for protection. It can be used for purification, right? And I kind of got tired of persons playing the baby doll in one way as this promiscuous woman who just all over the place, all willy-nilly, and speaking on one specific aspect of issues that women face, which is the worthlessness of the man. However, very rarely you would hear baby dolls talking about the community and why the community can be held accountable for the upbringing of that man.
Right.
So
you thought it was time, with your understanding, with our modern understanding, it was time for the baby doll to evolve.
Yes.
To reach to where we were in our understanding.
Time for the community to be held accountable, not just the
Beautiful. I'm taking that. Dr. Fergus, come in and add anything. You said you might be able to give us a bit of a summary of the ESC's write-up.
Yeah, but before I do that, I just want to put in context, the modern phase of Africa in the Trinidad Carnival. I see it as beginning in the 1950s with George Bailey, George Bailey's bands, more than 1 year, winning band of the year and all of that. And it was, in fact, part of the decolonization struggle. That was the artistic aspect of decolonization. I just want to say that. I also want to explain that there's a reason for the strong presentation of ethnic Nigerians, mainly Igbo and Yoruba cultural elements in our carnival. It's a post-emancipation migration phenomenon. I think some of you mentioned that. Most of the Africans who came after emancipation, 2/3 of them were Igbo and Yoruba, and that's post-emancipation, and it's between 1841 and 1867, over 9,000 new Africans came in. So, and some from Benin as well, a few of them. We still have remnants in Belmont, there are other people. Those elements got injected into the 19th century carnival. So it is quite correct to say that our carnival is not an European phenomenon. It's not an imitation of anything European at all. It's African to the core. And just as we talk about Notting Hill and and the carnivals in New Orleans and I think Toronto Carnival and so on, in Africa the _1 carnival is also Nigerian. It's not by accident. The Calabar Carnival is a Pan-African carnival. Bands from all over the continent. People come there representing the countries. Dozens of countries participate normally in December, and you see some of the same characters, the Mukojambis, lots of them, what we call 𝐀𝐟𝐫𝐢𝐜𝐚 and so on, the representation, all of them, so we know, and they're not borrowed. Of course, there are interchanges, and we need to recognize that there are interchanges. I was in Ghana when Osu, one of the suburbs of Accra, had a second carnival, and Obika was the organizer of a Trinidad band, and I was part of that organization. We introduced the steel pan to the Osu Carnival. And there's a sense of greater rhythm and choreographing of the movements on the streets and so on. That's one of the distinguishing differences and so on. Yes, so with respect to the publication, I don't know. I don't normally touch my phone to get the messages, so I don't know if she posted any. So, but it's entitled as Part 1, the Trinidad Carnival ESCC Carnival News. I believe it is the first edition. I'll just read out some of the subheadings for you. African spirituality in Carnival is the first item. Very short articles, easy to read, very short. It's kind of like TikToking in print, right? It's very short, and it talks about Elegba, Shango, Dame Lorraine, and so on, representing and Carnival. You have Carnival as African defiance. That is one aspect of it. You have, of course, the stick playing there as one of the features of that, the Midnight Rubber, which is also, as somebody said, our so-called griot tradition. I don't like to use the word, but the griot, we all understand what that is. The ancestors are still dancing, memory, healing, and continuity. And that's the last segment. So it's a very short piece, very interesting, and I hope that it is not just part one, but you know that part two would be coming up at some point in time, right? And we don't stop at part one. Very good work, excellent, and I commend the Emancipation Support Committee for that.
All right. So, Andy Shire, sister, and Natasha, we're about to change segments now. We're going to make Brother Omari the center of the conversation. But you guys could, I'm inviting you all to stay on, to be part of this conversation, because we're just going to shift slightly to look at the politics of Carnival. Perhaps you all may want to comment at some point in this conversation. And at some point in this conversation, of course, we're going to get to the latest row with the Archbishop and tribe as part of the politics of Carnival. And of course, we would want to look at the relationship between the contestation that we saw at the Super Bowl on the weekend with Bad Bunny and Kid Rock, and perhaps, you know, see if there's some parallel that we could draw with the contestation, the political contestation around Carnival here, right now in Trinidad and Tobago. So let me welcome another cultural practitioner, as you said, sister, a brother who was, you know, one of the leaders of the Rapso revolution, and is now an educator. And you can tell by his gray beard, something of an elder. Brother Omari Asby, come in, Omari.
Greetings to one and all. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's start by putting this thing in the context of what is the global thing right now. Bad Bunny has performed at the Super Bowl. White supremacists, you know, rejected the idea. They had their own halftime performance. The President of the United States of America has described the dancing as disgusting and said it is un-American. Commentators have gone wild all over the United States of America, while Bad Bunny projected the idea, proclaimed the idea of our America, and included, of course, the Trinidad and Tobago flag, saying that America is more than just North America, the United States of America, but the entire hemisphere, which includes us. And so we have that clash of ideas. Perhaps, is there a parallel that we could draw with the contestations that are taking place here? I'm not sure if you're muted, brother. We're not hearing you.
One of the things that we have to face
Oh boy, we are having some technical difficulties with our brother Omari here. And
with the Trinidad Carnival in particular. Let me see. I'm not too familiar with the particular thing.
It sounds like bandwidth problem you're having, huh?
Is it a situation of
Brother Omari, I'm gonna ask you to restart and see if you could get a better connection, to disconnect and reconnect.
And if you could reconnect on a different device, it would be perhaps better.
Yeah, in the meantime, Natasha and Andesha, I will throw that question that I throw to Omari to both of you. I think the Andesha, I don't know, you look like you might have, you're from that generation who was paying attention to Bad Bunny and although Natasha, I'm not saying that you probably didn't watch and pay attention to, but I don't know. Andy, just I suspect. Andy, tell me, what do you think?
I'm not going to lie to you. I saw a bit of stuff online. I did not follow up too well with it, but I did see a lot of posts where people were talking about how he dropped a lot of Easter eggs when it came to the sugarcane plantations. He reused a lot of historical imaging as well within the performance itself. And I do think that him using that platform to talk about that it is our America, because they are all American countries, and that in and of itself says a lot, using that platform in particular anyway, because it's something that is usually heavily United States based. I think it was just a lot of prejudice against the fact that he was a Spanish speaker, and they couldn't understand. So they usually
but I think we have to be clear that Spanish is just one aspect of his presentation that was outside of the what is accepted or what is hegemonic, the hegemonic culture of the hemisphere.
Yes.
And the projection of non-hegemonic ideas and cultural forms into that hemisphere is still up to today challenging for some people to accept. And let me see if we could get Brother Omari in on this subject now. Brother Omari.
Yes, I trust you all can hear me now, hopefully.
Excellent.
Excellent. Yeah.
All right. So in regards, I would make a comparison as to the contestation we have within our own carnival, where we separate it into the Mardi Gras and the Cambole, right? And so the idea of these two elements kind of seeking to see who is dominant, because a lot of the things that we accept as part of our experience has its grounding in the idea of the planter class version of their Mardi Gras, right? And so in the moving of the Cambole from August, I believe, to bring it and link it to their thing, that tension was there, where you have the African representation inside of there, becoming let me step back a little bit. One of the things that we have to come to terms with is that the Western idea that cleaves art and artistic expression from life, right? Most indigenous societies understand that art, music, dance is life, right? And it is not an extracurricular activity. And so that positionality in the first place is something that we have to understand, that when we bring music, when we bring dance, when we bring those expressions, it is not an addendum to what we are doing. It is central to who we are. Yeah. And that is one of the major differences you see. So the literal performative aspect that you may get from a Kid Rock and that kind of thing is very different to how central our artistic expression would be. So when Bad Bunny is coming there, he's not coming to say, I am putting on a dance or let me sing something about it. That is life in and of itself. This is how we move through this space, and this is how we communicate. This is how we treat with who we are. So it's two fundamental things that are playing off of each other. In a similar way, our Cambole, right, which has been lumped in with the Mardi Gras and made into the singular carnival, in my estimation at least, our Cambole is fundamental to who we are and how we survived in this space. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, while I will agree with your second premise, but I think that people who participate in the creativity that what is his name, Kid Rock is associated with, might not want to see their thing as not part of their own lifestyle and their life and an expression of their own being as well. So I'd contest that.
I want to clarify that. I'm not saying that it is not part of the lifestyle. No. I'm saying the perception of art as something separate is a very Western kind of approach to it. So it is the understanding I am speaking to rather than the saying.
The phenomenon. It's the understanding rather than the phenomenon.
Yes.
Okay. So let's move to the second premise now. You were saying that. Just repeat that second point that you were making.
So I am saying that my comparison, this is how I look at it, the idea of the Mardi Gras and the Cambule and that contestation that takes place in our carnival, that we see in several ways, and how it plays out to me in the modern era is this idea of a kind of class structure that we have, where our idea of the inclusive fets and that are exclusive, and so you have these ideas of where you belong and where you can be, and what perhaps your resources could get you, or who it could get you away from, right? And so we have these ideas of people who see carnival as an expression, as a ritual, as the idea of how our ancestors moved through the space and what helped them to survive and create this space, as opposed to just a thing that we do. And I always tell people all aspects of carnival.
Let me ask you. One is that idea of exclusion becoming more prominent in your experience?
I think so, and it is fueled by a fear. It is fueled by a fear of our own selves. So we are often convinced in a particular way that we are dangerous to us, and we buy into it, right? And so the idea is that if you cannot afford to be around me, I am going to be safe, right? It's the same concept of putting up walls, and the taller the wall you build, rather than treating with the actual issue of the system.
Tell me, Omari, how is that hurting Carnival? I mean, explicitly for those who are listening now, this organization of Carnival along this kind of hierarchical class structure with all these zones of exclusion, how is that hurting the Carnival?
Well, one of the things that I tell people, you just look at how the Carnival has become. We had seen ropes and so forth disappear from the Carnival. Now it has come back in a rage, right? So you have these roped off bands, right, where everything is all inclusive. What does an all inclusive band do? I am old enough to remember that Carnival, the streets used to be lined with people plying their trade of food, drink, and the people in the band would participate with them and help them financially, but in exchange for the goods. When everything is contained, right, what you have is that financial gain goes to one entity rather than what you would have had, what would have obtained before, where people, the average man was able to put up a booth, go in his booth and provide services for these bands. Now it's everybody wants to be a microcosm onto themselves. This separation, and it deals with a lot of different things, because people complain about the emptiness of the city. The city is empty because people are more concerned with playing themselves than playing a mass and having people come out to see them, right? Because if you don't have the band on your hand, you can't get a drink. If you don't have the so we have to. One of the things that I tell people, right? I get worried when somebody in a band, a mass band, calls me a client, right? I'm not a client. I come to play mass, right? I'm a masquerader. And we have this idea that it is progress, these are the clients and we have to provide this for them. Mass is an experience that is supposed to ground you, those kind of ideas of the exclusiveness and everything must be, you have to have the AC bus to go in and the breeze must blow on you. To me, that is diametrically opposed to the experience.
You talk about the absence of the sort of outside of the masqueraders. You have the cities becoming quieter and quieter on Carnival Monday and Tuesday. Have you accounted? Have you considered? And I'm going to throw this out to everybody: the role of the religious bodies, in particular evangelical Christians, who have for a couple of decades now invited more and more people to stay away from Carnival, seeing it as something, and of course you know, with the latest row over the sex toy in the tribe gift bag, perhaps fueling even more of that kind of attitude towards the carnival?
I would want to say this, right? No, I am very particular about respecting people and their autonomy to believe what they want to believe and worship how they want to worship. I'm very clear on that, right? So I have to put that caveat before I say what I say, right? We have to be very clear about what we are doing, right? And I will make a quick example. All through the COVID, I played my Juve by myself in the savannah up by me here, right? Full body paint, my Bluetooth speaker. I went and I opened the way. I played Juve for about an hour by myself, and then I went back home. One of the reasons for that is I understand the importance of the ritual to who we are. So my concern with the churches is that the very respect that most of them claim, right? The very respect that they want, they do not give, right? So when you demonize things like the carnival and the ritual of the carnival, the opening of the space, the grounding of it, it is problematic, because what you are doing is really something that you do not want done to you, right? I would never go and disrespect somebody who is worshiping in their own way, because I fully believe that, you know, that is your choice to make. So for me, Juve, Juve is the rebirth of the year, right? That's how I celebrate my new year. That is how I ground myself. That is how I honor those who went before me. And so it's critical and important. So when these religious bodies start to talk about the carnival and encourage people to look at it as demonic and whatever else they say, I have a serious problem with that.
Let me invite two comments from our guests, and then let me turn it over to Dr. Fergus to advance the conversation. Natasha, you've listened to Brother Omari. Would you like to add or subtract or contest anything he said?
Okay, yes, I fully agree. And his words tonight is almost exactly like a midnight rubber speech that I just created for one of my students. His words compass all of what I put into that midnight rubber speech. So our Play-Doh Mass is a ritual. It has deep meaning. It's not just an event. It's not just something that we do every year. It is spiritual. So I was telling a student, I put on a traditional carnival character show today at my school. And before the students went on stage, I told them that my religion is our culture. And he said, Miss, what you talking about is wassiness? I said, no, our Trinidad and Tobago's culture, that's my religion. I'm not of the different denominations, because our culture is spiritual for me.
Yeah, and I think Natasha, what you did in that moment there is you perhaps help that kid to imbue that kid with a different view than the one that is so commonly projected to young people. I think we're playing into ideas that we're given about ourselves, and it's important for cultural practitioners like you, Brother Omari, and Andy Shire here, to imbue our actions with different meanings and more substance. Andy, let me bring you in for a quick comment before we go to Dr. Fergus.
Yes, I don't have much to add to that, because Mr. Ashby has literally said it all.
Just big him up then, big him up.
Yeah, the ritual
all
is
right.
important.
All right.
It is so important for us to remember the ritual in everything and remain sacred, allow the ritual to remain sacred, that giving it the respect that it deserves, I think is the most important with all of our traditional masquerade, masking traditions, the allowing the mass itself to come to the forefront and exist as it authentically should.
And Dr. Fergus, let me bring you in at this point.
Yeah, my interest is in contesting the presumption or assumption that the ritual of Carnival should or must remain African. Um, Now, I'm not saying that there's not virtue in the ritual being African, but remember, the carnival would have progressed for much of the 20th century from mainly an African-centered event into a more national event, especially in the post-colonial period. We are trying or claiming to want to create a national festival out of Carnival. So my question is, wouldn't there be compromises uh, as these various forces engage in sort of trying to forge a synthesis uh, into a new kind of carnival? And in addition, the younger generation, and perhaps the persons there on the set can challenge me on that, but the younger generation, whether they are the Gen Z or the millennials or whatever you choose to call them, they seem to have less respect for everything, less respect and less concern for and about the spiritual. So wouldn't that also affect the carnival, making it into a more meaningless spiritual event to them, and more, self-centered, as I think we have attempted to diagnose here, that is more personalized, individual kind of performance that we perhaps need less people to come to share with, and and therefore we share with ourselves. So could you perhaps comment on that, Omari, that the spirituality of the carnival, the African spirituality, is bound to be affected, not just it is a victim of modern circumstances, but it's part of an evolution. And therefore, we are still in this contest, this sort of dialectical contest between what we value as traditional Africans and what the new forces are bringing into the carnival. Could you comment on it? I'm not sure I'm making sense, but could you comment on that?
Yeah, I'm hearing you clearly, and you are correct, that. And so my point is this: there has always, once you have elements rubbing up on each other, there will be both creativity and tensions, right? Because you have all these things happening. What I often look at, though, is that contestation has always thrown up almost two separate carnivals that exist right next to each other. Yeah. And so while you have the rope and all that, you have a kind of resurgence of the Gael, the calendar. While you have the rope, you look at who the ages of the pan players in these steel bands. When you look at that and you see how many young people are engaging with the steel drum, right? And the kind of things that leads to the steel drum intrinsically requires a kind of level of discipline and spirituality that comes from almost a meditative devotion to rehearsal, to executing something for a reward for the whole. So you have these areas, and there's just a couple of them that are so, and you have a couple of smaller bands now that are now encouraging people to come and start to build their own costumes again, right, from scratch. So you have these areas that are happening, and that tension has always been there. By sheer reasoning of what you said, by who was here, who came, who exists in this space. And so there's always that rubbing up that creates some good things and some tensions. There's always that. But when it comes to particularly ways of knowing and embodied knowledge, I am supremely confident that what needs to be there will find a way to be there. I don't know if that's clear.
Yeah, that's clear. That's clear. Could we get a comment from our other guests on that aspect? How do you feel about that? What I presume to be, less reverence for the spiritual by quite the significant number percentage of the the modern generation, the younger generation, and how that would perhaps it's bound to affect the carnival because they are participants and they are going to be directing the carnival, not an Omari, in the next generation. They are going to be directing the carnival, and it's bound to be affected. So, could we have a comment from both groups?
Okay.
Yes, Bernard, did you?
So we do have a young
Yeah, go
person
ahead.
here in the midst, and probably
I was hoping to hear him. That's why I said both groups. I was hoping to hear the young man there as well.
Yeah, can share his thoughts on the youths in Carnival today, their respect, their appreciation for our Carnival, our traditional forms.
Most of them more like Juve. Yes.
Are you all hearing him?
No, not quite. Let him get closer to the microphone or the device.
Sit here. Yes, they can hear you.
Yeah, no?
Yeah, it's better now.
So they want to know about the youths in
But lean a
Carnival.
little bit to get more central to the viewers. You're more central in the screen. You're right, a little bit again. Yeah, yeah, good. We can handle that. Yeah, we can handle that. Let's see you, man. We can handle that. Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
But most younger people that I know, they're more like the Juve part of it. They're not really into the art of it, really. Them just will go there and dance and listen to the music. And most of it doesn't even be soca. They're more here dancehall. So I kind of want to encourage them to learn more about the arts and the traditional characters and things.
Yeah. So everything is happening side by side.
Huh?
Yeah, everything is happening side by side. You have rebirth, you have degeneration, regeneration. It's all happening at the same time. Guys, this Omari, this conversation reminds me. It takes me back to peak Peter Minshall, peak Leroy Clark. I think somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, when there were these two debates. One at the Carry Festa back in that period. We could find the exact date if we look for that, the Carry Festa around that time. And then thereafter, one in the Central Bank Auditorium. And all the cultural practitioners of the period were there to hear these debates. And I think that, a lot of the discourse that we have now really comes out of those debates. The conversation about the Mardi Gras, the Camboulet, and the role of Africa and the role of Europe comes out of those debates. And I think both of those icons of our culture would have been touched in some way by his interaction with the other. And those of us who were fortunate enough, Omar, I don't know if you were there for any of those conversations. Omari might be stuck, he's lost him. But yeah, I was there. I was lucky myself. People like Victor Rubaderi, Ozzy Merrick, Attila, and so on. That whole generation was there as young people to benefit from that conversation, that debate. I think Peter coming in from the sort of, both, a traditional understanding of where mass came from, the French and so on, and at the same time acknowledging his borrowings from the continent of Africa, from African art forms and so on, in his own masquerade, and Leroy standing up and demonstrating the speaking to the African element. So So Peter talking to the European elements, Leroy speaking to the African elements, and both of them acknowledging some of the fusion and syncretism that we see today, and question and debating, where is this going to take us, which is where we are now. Where is this going to take us? And of course, we can't answer that question tonight on Indaba, but we can look at some of the different things that are taking place within that contestation. My listeners have been reaching out to me. They want to know what your views are, and of course, we're hoping Omari would come back on this debate between the Catholic Church and tribe band. Where is the generation? Where the young people coming down on this issue? We can't leave the politics of mass tonight and not deal with that. Andy, let's start with you. What are the young people saying?
Well, I can speak on both, because just like young man, I have persons on both sides of the spectrum. Most of my friends or my peers are cultural practitioners themselves, and we have been working tirelessly, because we do traditional mass, to get that message out there. A friend of mine, we did a festival called Festival of Flames, where it's a jab showcase, where we showcase the jab molasi in its element, and what it represents, and how it interacts with the space, and why it's important, right? And then I have friends who love the fetting culture. For them, that fetting culture, or that rope culture, is what actually gives them that freedom to express themselves, because for them, mass gives them this we floating kind of feeling.
Release, transcendent release.
So to some extent, I strongly believe that even though they may not be looking at the spiritual aspect of it directly, it's happened, they are experiencing it, and they may not want to say that, or express it the way that we would openly say that if I'm going to, before I play a jab, I pour libations. They may not say that that's what it is do, but the same that happens within everyday life. When you crack a new bottle of rum, you throw some out and bowl for the dead homies, but you are pouring libations for those that went. So I think in some way, even though they don't say it, they are experiencing it. And
that's interesting. And Andy, before we move on though, can you comment on the current debate between the tribe ban and the inclusion of this sex toy, and the Archbishop's comments, which suggest that if Carnival does not police itself, the government, and I suppose implicit in that is that the church will encourage the government to police the Carnival?
Firstly, I strongly believe that there should be a separation between state and religion, because when you have, now I'm all for including or giving persons the space to express themselves spiritually as well, because nobody cannot force me to not practice my beliefs or oppress me in that way. But when it comes to state, there is a difference, and state should operate for the betterment of everyone, not just a specific group. This sex toy thing, realistically, a lot of people would say that the people that they're giving these things to are adults, and in giving them that freedom to express safely, because they handing out condoms at schools. You understand?
Right. So let's take it from there. Natasha, some people are saying that this is the beginning of this is the next level of Sodom and Gomorrah.
That's biblical. That is Christian biblical, and that's not.
I'm not allowed to say no comment, right?
Well, you're always allowed. I mean, you know what? It doesn't make for good radio if you say no comment.
So I briefed the topic, and I have heard different radio announcers sharing their views on it, pros and cons. My point of view, I actually was wondering where the initiative came from. Where did that initiative to put that in a goodie bag for Carnival came from? And as Ali said, they do protective weight via schools, if that's an equation. So my take on it, is it necessary? I don't see it necessary. And at the same time, I also understand that it's a preventative measure. So it's a pro and a con.
Right.
It can, yes, prevent wild relations, and also it's adults, it's for adults. Adults are supposed to be responsible. So those who are in that Carnival band is also their choice.
I suppose the objection from the Catholic Church stems from the question of their objection to fornication.
Correct.
You know, the self-pleasuring is something that is frowned
That
upon.
they are against, yes.
Yes, in the tradition.
But they are against mass as a whole.
Yes.
So it does not matter what happens within the mass. They are going to find some way to oppose it. Now, I am not saying that they were right. However, Tribe is a company, and Mr. Ashby would have said that he hates to be called a client. But these people would know what their target market is interested in.
Yeah, but I think that I don't think that it's right to say that the Catholic Church is outside of the Carnival.
It's against mass, yeah.
Has always been, you know, in Trinidad and Tobago,
they participant
in the Carnival. In fact, it sort of delineated, you know, when the Carnival would start, when it would end. They were the ones who said soca music was not to be played outside of the season, but they accepted it within the season, and so on. You know, Lent has a particular role in the Carnival. It's Carnival is sort of within the Catholic calendar, and up to today, you have a lot of priests, probably even the Archbishop. I don't want to say because I don't know specifically, but he has been regularly, you know. And not without merit, being described as a progressive Catholic figure, and a number of progressive Catholic figures do either promote fetes or participate in fetes in one way or another.
Participated. Remember, we had a priest that was a masquerader as well. So the Catholic priest has always resisted every change in civilization, and then they come around eventually. So that's nothing surprising. Not that I'm familiar with the content of what you're saying. I don't know about that. I'll have to go and find out about it. But I'm intervening here because I think Dr. Kambon is to come up in the program, Shabaka, not so?
We could get we'll get a note from our higher ups.
Yeah, please let us know, because we are coming close to the third half hour. And is Sheldon coming on still with the music, or are you going to play the music? Which one?
There's been an issue and he will not join us, which is why we had the luxury of extending this session a bit. Let me just say that there's comments.
And he doesn't want the song. He doesn't want the song played. Is that it as well?
We should ask Renee to play his song, actually, if she can pull it up.
Yeah, I think we can close the program with that after the final remarks and so on. We can close up with that.
But Dr. Fergus,
so Renee, if you have access to it and if you can bring it up, perhaps you can get it ready for us to end the program with.
Yes, that's a great idea. But Dr. Fergus, have you seen the comments on this conversation?
Yeah, well, you check, because as I said, I can't check my
Okay. So we have a commenter called Yoruba Woman. And she says that what they, and that is tribe, did in a goodie bag is disgusting. This is not about religion. Carnival is not about vulgarity. What next? She asks. And guys, I'm really sorry to put you all on the hot seat here. This was Omari's job, and he sits up there. But perhaps you could venture, if you so desire. How would you respond to Yoruba woman?
Sorry, I'm reading the comments. Sorry.
Sorry?
No, I was saying I was reading the comments. Sorry. Question, please.
Yeah, so what she's saying here, and I'm just kind of reading exactly what she says. I don't want to interpret it in any way. She says that what their tribe did by putting that sex toy in the goodie bag is disgusting. And she says this is not about religion, it's about vulgarity. And what next? Is she being is Yoruba woman being prudish, or does she have a point?
I wouldn't say that. I definitely wouldn't say that. And because I'm seeing here that she said a condom is not a sex toy, and I understand. However, because I understand the storytelling aspect, because I'm seeing her next comment is Carnival is about the storytelling. And honestly, that's a conversation you'll have to ask the person to organize the tribe to do that. Because honestly, me personally, I am not one to shun people for what it is. Because if they know that their clients or whatever might be interested in that and they decide that that's what they want to add it, I am not playing with tribe. I can't say, well, don't do that, because people just look at me a type of way for doing job mass.
Yeah, but Andy, I want to just put a different perspective to you. I mean, this is our space, this is our carnival, and I think regardless of if it is tribe or whatever the group is doing is innovating in some way, we can all have a perspective. We have a right to comment on it, because it is ours. It is our gift to the world, and we want to protect it and preserve it. So I'm not saying that they're right or wrong, but we definitely have a say in what happens next. Natasha, would you like to comment in any way?
Yes, I actually don't. Again, where did this initiative come from for that carnival band? And is it necessary? Is it necessary? Our traditional carnival, our carnival, the greatest show on earth, have existed so long beautifully. And it is our hope to continue for it to exist like this. But where does that particular factor fit in? Where does it fit in?
Yeah, these are good questions. Thank you very much, Natasha, for that question. And thank you, Andy, for your views as well. We really appreciate it.
I just wanted to add, if I may, one other point. For example, I had a negative outlook on some of our soca music videos. For example, me being a parent, I have a 10-year-old son who loves our carnival, who loves our calypso, who loves our soca music. And I cannot say, okay, go ahead and go through music videos. Go through our soca music videos, because most of them are what? Porn?
Yeah. That's I'm so happy you raised this issue tonight, Natasha, because that is part of the politics of Carnival, and that's an issue that we may have swept under the carpet. Andy, your comment on this. This is an interesting question again, and it's sort of related to the one that we're discussing tonight. How do you feel about the issue that Natasha has raised here?
I agree with that. I do agree that the storytelling aspect of the music in particular, because I mean, you can take any song and wind it, okay, cool, but where's the creativity? Where is the creativity in production? And how can it shift a bit?
Yeah, Mom.
To something else that, that, as she said, that a 10-year-old could reach.
Yeah.
Forgive me, I'm getting a call here, and the commentator wants to know, as an addendum to this conversation, the commodification of women's bodies. And I think in that conversation, there's another question: are we moving backwards? Because there was a time in recent times, in the period of the glory days of our women's rights activist Hazel Brown, when we were contesting the way women were being depicted, and women themselves were starting to object to the kind of commodification that is becoming, I guess, again, so prevalent, specific types of commodification and the selling of their body parts, objectification, to sell songs. And there was a real pushback. And I think that somehow, again, and again, if we look at the whole conversation we're having tonight, we will see that there's constant backing and forthing, and things aren't, there's no, we haven't reached a particular point where we can say that's a sweet spot. We're always contesting. But this is a contest I wonder if women don't want to start to push back on again before it goes too far. Natasha?
There's always room for change. There's always room for improvement, and the world and culture and traditions have been changing. There was a time where our carnival, we went from whole body suits to bikinis to painted bodies to string bikinis, and also fully clothed carnival costumes. There is a part in our carnival for all of that. However, we still need to respect our mass, respect our history, our carnival history. We still need to have a vision for the future. So women in carnival, they are going to choose. They want a half body, a full body, a painted body carnival costume. Still respect yourselves. Still respect yourselves. Some are going to push back. I could wear what I want. This is my time to free up and play a mass. And there are going to be women who choose to be more closed.
Can we you raise a very interesting question there, and I'd love to hear Andy's point of view. Can we have the nakedness existing alongside respect for women?
Correct, I agree. That I can agree with.
I remember there's a young sister called Alicia Bartel. She's a dancer and a cultural practitioner, and
right.
she takes off her top every year for Juve. She's done it now for some time now, defying those who would want to see her, picked up off the street and put in a jail or something for her conduct. She says it's a right that she's affirming, and she's doing it not in a way to objectify or disrespect or degrade women, but to express
to make a statement.
I agree with that in particular, because it does not matter what I wear. If I do not give you permission to touch my body, you do not have permission to touch my body. I strongly believe in that. I believe that people, because I wouldn't just say men, need to be able to control themselves. Because at the end of the day, this is my body. This is unnatural. This is naturally occurring. I did not ask for boobs. I didn't ask for wide hips. Because it does not matter what I wear, I can't be objectified. So whether I'm wearing nothing, or I'm wearing something, or I'm wearing, because I have actually seen with my own eyes men sexualize women in hijabs.
Yeah. Okay.
So yes.
Yeah. We reached the top of the program, but I just want to inject. I need not necessarily need a comment or feedback. But we started off the carnival discussion talking about Africa in the carnival. and we come to nudity. But nudity in particularly Nigeria, that I said, is a focal point of origin for our carnival. Nudity is the strongest, female nudity is the strongest expression of political resistance and dissent even today, when women go to the extreme, protesting injustice and so on, they strip themselves naked and go out into the streets. No policeman there puts his hand on that person. And the person, if it's a political official they're objecting to, believe me, that person is likely to leave office. It's the strongest expression of political dissent. So perhaps you can consider that, in the context, are we really, in a sense, perhaps doing something that is culturally inherited but forgotten? And that we are battling with, perhaps, when we revert, when we think that we are engaging in perhaps a pornographic kind of expression, that in fact it is our highest form of resistance, the oppression that we are seeing on the streets. Of course, we may have other arguments about that, but that's just for consideration. That it's not, what you see is not necessarily always what is.
Yeah, and of course, I just sorry.
There are traditional dances within West Africa that is similar to what we do here. That are traditional.
Well, South Africa, you go to South Africa, and people, women have no. I mean, it's so natural in South Africa. You see women. Remember a time a South African dance troupe came to Trinidad under Robinson's tenure, and they forced the dancers to cover up. They danced all over the world, just like that. And when they came to Trinidad, they make them put on clothes. Right. So Trinidad probably has a problem with the female figure, particularly certain persons who claim to be guardians of morality in Trinidad.
Yeah,
so I think we can bring the program to an end, Shabaka, with closing remarks. I think we're fine.
Let me just say that there has been a number of strong comments coming from those on Facebook and so on YouTube, suggesting that why it is a woman's right to whatever she does in her own bedroom to please herself in whatever way shouldn't be the society's business. There's a number of comments that speak to that. I think we need to acknowledge that perspective. But I just wanted to add a nuance, Doctor. I think that you can see nakedness, you can see dancing of all kinds of forms and so on. But there is always in every culture a line. And I think when someone like Natasha, who's a cultural practitioner, sees a particular thing and she feels uncomfortable by what she's seeing, there's something is wrong there. Because I don't think she's a prude. I don't think she's objected to whining and to some degree of nudity. But there's something about the way we do things sometimes that doesn't have anything to do with anything outside of sex and the objectification of women, which is not a good thing. And even within a culture that has a certain acceptance for nudity and that kind of thing, there are still lines, is what I'm suggesting. And we have to figure out where those lines are, where a woman's expression then becomes part of the downfall of all women in the culture. So that these are all interesting comments. And last but not least,
perhaps our problem is we can't really define our culture. What is our culture in Trinidad? We have so many dimensions of culture in Trinidad. We don't have a national culture. I've always said we do not have a national cosmology. So you have these multiple aspects competing, for attention. And often you would find these conflicts and challenges. So, it's...
We've got a conversation for some time to go. Those of our guests, Omari, who's disappeared, Natasha, we want to thank you very much and wish you all the best with the Majestic Mogos. And of course, we look forward to seeing more of you. And of course, you too, Andy. We know that you're doing great work. I love the innovation. We're looking forward to seeing more of that in the future. Thank you very much for being with us here tonight on Indaba, and we invite our listeners to join us again next week. Same time, same place for another edition of this exciting program. Looking forward to part 2 of that Africa report, Dr. Fergus. Take care. One love.
Yes, yes, yes. Enjoy your stay and have a safe return.
Yes, indeed. Talk tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Yeah, okay. Bye-bye.